schedule. Now we're hitting the home stretch, and some very crucial games will determine not only the seedings as it relates to the upcoming SEC tournament, but also what it could mean for teams in the NCAA tournament as well. Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. I'm Gerhard Mathangani, joined by Patrick Walsh. You saw there Kentucky and Florida. That is the marquee game of the weekend. Two programs who are riding, I would say, probably two of the better programs right now. If you were to pick maybe 5 programs in the country playing as hot as could be at this possible time, I'd put these two right among them.
Yeah, and I mean, you definitely cannot find a team that is hotter than Florida right now after that Auburn game. But I think if you were to tell me that this is going to be a marquee game moving forward to the rest of the college goodness, I almost said the college football season, the college basketball season, before the season started, I would have been like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. We got Florida and we got Kentucky. But if you told me this a month ago with how bad Kentucky was playing, I would be like, what's going on? Is the SEC that down? But I just feel like Kentucky, they've started to answer the bell here as of late. And a lot has been made on this show by me personally about how they have this $22 million roster and they might have missed there was some time where we're like, is this Kentucky team going to miss the tournament?
Yeah.
But now they've inched their way back into the rankings. They sit at 25 right now, have a great test ahead of them in Gainesville, taking on Florida on Saturday. And just get the popcorn ready. I know it's Valentine's Day, but get your popcorn ready.
I know, but between these two teams, Kentucky's coming in on a 3-game winning streak. Florida's coming in on a 4-game winning streak. Florida's won 9 of their last 10. Kentucky has won 8 of their last 9. Kentucky's only loss in that stretch is to Vanderbilt, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And, Florida's losses to Auburn. We'll start on that Kentucky side because we talked to Colby Wilson and a few others around here about what this Kentucky team was, and it felt like for a while, not necessarily that Mark Pope's job was maybe, in debate or whatever, but it just felt like, okay, is this the right guy or did they catch lightning in a bottle last year? And it feels like he's been the right guy considering the adjustments they've made.
Yeah, and I mean, I think when you go back to his BYU days, I mean, Mark Pope had a great run there at BYU, and it just seemed like he picked up exactly where he left off last season, and he had a really good team there at Kentucky. And then you come into this season, they dished out all the money. They're like, all right, let's take that next step this year. Let's go all in. We're Kentucky. We are the premier college basketball program. Let's take that next step. And at first, it was definitely a bit shaky. That's a great face to put it up there. It's like, it's just like, is this team really worth that $22 million?
Yeah.
The Gonzaga loss definitely put a damper on things. I think they lost by 45 that game, and that was like, man, is this really Kentucky basketball? That was probably their low point, but like every great story, every great comeback story, sometimes you need your low point to realize that you've hit your low point, and then you can storm right on back, and that's exactly what Kentucky's done. Since then, I really think the Vanderbilt game was their only bad game. Again, another 40-point loss.
Absolutely, and they've done nothing but bounce back since then, and now they have a chance. They're 1 game back right now to the Florida Gators. They have a chance to be tied for the lead with the leg up after beating the Gators if they're able to do so on Saturday. Head coach Mark Pope, we talked about just a moment ago, talked a little bit about making those changes in the physicality of his team.
Our guys have been willing, so we're trying to, you get to this point in the season and everybody's worn down and beaten down, and you're trying to save so much emotion and physicality as you can for the game. For us, that wasn't functioning very well for us. We needed to get peaked for at least a solid segment where it was kind of violently physical and combative in practice, just because it was just the makeup of this team. For whatever reason, this team needed it, and our guys have been willing to do it. I think they've seen good success from it. Today will be another really, really important test for our guys about, can we get to that level of physicality today for a couple segments in practice. It's given us good results, so we expect it will continue the challenges to get there, and I think our guys have done a great job doing it. Yeah, it's Florida presents a lot of issues. I don't know if they're the biggest front line in the country, but they're definitely the most experienced and tenured, and have the most winning under their belts. They know exactly who they are. They know exactly how they do this. And they're a dominant force. What they've done the last several weeks in the league has been really impressive. Just the margin of victory. They're really dominating opponents. And they do it with this front line. Their backcourt is playing better. They're feeling more comfortable. So I think they're contributing more. But this front line is deep, big, physical, imposing, and so it's a challenge for everybody, and it's going to be a great challenge for us.
I think where this Kentucky team is a bit interesting because we'll kind of juxtapose their schedules against one another because we talked about how both teams are really hot right now. But in this run in the last 10 games, Kentucky has beaten Tennessee twice. They beat Arkansas. Do you think that this is as important of a game just to be able to have another notch on your belt against another elite opponent like those two teams? Maybe not elite, but definitely among the best in the SEC.
Well, I almost feel like this is probably the most important game of the year because some of these title contending teams that you've gone up against, I'll loop in Vanderbilt there as well because for a while up until that 3-game losing streak, Vanderbilt looked like they were title contenders. They have been blown off the floor, like not even close. We're not even talking like 10-point game. I think they lost by a combined 80 points against Gonzaga, who's definitely a title contender if they don't lose to Seattle, and Vanderbilt if they don't, kind of slip up here like they did against Oklahoma. So this is probably going to be the biggest game of the season for Kentucky. But here's the good thing if you're Kentucky. You get them again to end the year, and you get them at Rupp Arena. They've played a little bit weird at Rupp Arena here this year. You go all the way back to Missouri game. It was the first time Missouri ever won there in program history. Right. This season on the road, they're 3-3, so they're kind of middle of the pack. They've only had 6 road games. They're 6-6 in quad 1 games. So a loss here doesn't hurt by any means. I think the only way it hurts is if they're like the other losses against title contenders. Correct. Which really, honestly, wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility just because of how dominating Florida has been here. Right. Last thing on Kentucky, Otega Oweh came in as the preseason SEC Player of the Year. I mentioned Colby Wilson earlier. We talked about her, and there was some talk about and just an effort situation from him. Like, hey, is it an effort deal? Is it pressure? Did he put too much pressure on himself? And it feels like their star, like the stars that we've seen elsewhere, Tyler Tanner and others, their stars really starting to step up. And it feels like when he is, the team kind of follows suit. Yeah, and again, I don't think there are some people that have a tendency of getting better as the season goes on. Like you see that in the MLB all the time. Yeah, I mean, Francisco Lindor is a great example. Yes. For some reason, it always seems like every April or May, he's like, man, is this really the star that the Mets went out and traded for and signed to this 10-year contract? And then it always is like, aha, you get to the halfway point, and that's when you start to see Lindor start to heat it up for the Mets there. So I almost feel like Otega Oweh could be one of those players, again, that's not really the player you want to be known as because you want to be able to impact the game impact the game positively for your team throughout the whole year. Right. But he could just be lumped into that category of, he just gets off to slow starts, but he'll eventually find his groove. But again, I think if you were to choose one or the other, would you rather start hot and then fade off or start cold and heat up? You definitely want to heat up right around now. Yeah, 21 points against Tennessee, 24 points against Oklahoma, another 24 against Arkansas, and those 3 straight wins for him. So it's seeming like he's right in that 21 point a game range right now. Pretty and it feels like the other guys are feeding off of that and being able to play good basketball. We'll flip it over to the other side there with the defending national champion, the Florida Gators. This is a team like Florida. They're also winning a lot. Yeah. But I want to point out some numbers to you on this. I mentioned that they've won 4 straight games. Yeah. Let me give you their average margin of victory in those 4 games. Actually, not even average. I'll do the average afterwards. Let me just give you the 4 margins of victory. It's got to be 25 plus. It is. You're actually close to right on almost on the nose. 47, 23, 19, and 20, averaging out to about 27 points per game of margin. So you were literally 1 basket away. I think that
this Florida team right now, if I'm just handpicking, and I know I just watched them win a national championship, and maybe I'm giving Todd Golden maybe a little extra credit, but this team right now is playing in a way that it feels so dangerous to the rest of college basketball.
And it feels so eerily similar in a way to last year's team.
Yeah.
Like it's just, again, they have more losses. It took them a little bit longer for this team to be able to find out their true identity. But, again, you had a few transfers come in. Obviously, last year you had Richard and Clayton, and now you have Xavier Lee. He's starting to find his groove. Boogie Fland is starting to affect the game in more ways than just shooting the three-pointer in. It's always so weird because Todd Golden is without a doubt one of those like Moneyball type guys. He spends so much time focusing on the analytics and that side of the equation where we really haven't seen that in basketball.
Right.
Especially in recent memory. So he's kind of started this growing trend of let's bring analytics into basketball. But he knows there's no secret with this team. You got to get it to Hauk, and you have to get it to Condon.
Yeah.
But if you can get the three-point shooting on the side, that's like the cherry on top, as he says, after the game against Georgia. So it's such a recipe for success because it's no secret that it's more likely that you're going to make a 2-point basket than a 3-point basket.
Yes.
It's not like that's not like rocket science. So if you can find consistency there, consistency is going to win you games rather than living and dying by the three like some of these teams in the SEC.
Yeah, some teams have gone up and down, and there's that old saying, you live by the three, you die by the three. One of the things that travels is defense and getting to the basket and or getting to the free throw line. Always been a big thing. The next 5 games, really the course of the season, seems pretty favorable to this basketball team. I know it's a very tough Kentucky team coming up on Saturday, but then it's South Carolina, they'll be favored in that game. Ole Miss, they'll be favored in that game. Texas, they'll be favored in that game. Then at home against Arkansas, if they beat Kentucky, I could see a situation where they just end off the year red hot.
Yeah, and the only slip-up I could honestly see is probably the Texas game.
Oh, because the Moody Center. Yeah.
Well, not only that, again, Moody Center, haunted. Like there's literally nothing else to say. That place is haunted. The crazy things happen there. But it's before Arkansas.
Yeah.
And Texas is probably going to be playing for a major win at that point.
Yes.
We're going to talk with Noah Gross here in a little bit. They got Missouri this weekend, which I think that's one of the more compelling matchups as well because these are 2 bubble teams that are going to go right up against one another. I believe Texas is one of the last teams in. Missouri is right there as well, so that could be a major game. And Texas, they get them at home. They're going to get a Florida team that I would honestly expect them. I'm just going to come out and say it. I think they're going to beat Kentucky this weekend. I think they're going to beat them pretty handedly just because it's a home game, and they've just been on such a heater right now. But then you get South Carolina, definitely should win that game. You beat them by 40 on the road.
Yeah.
You get Ole Miss, not really the season Chris Beard was wanting. But the Texas game is like one of those weird games where it's right before that Arkansas game.
Yeah.
And Texas really needs a win to be like, yes, we're going to be in the tournament here this year. And Sean Miller's crew, if they show up to games, they can win against anybody in the country.
Yeah, they certainly can. Todd Golden led this team to the championship last year. He talked about the three-point shooting getting off to a hot start.
Right. We collectively, as a staff and as a program, kind of think of our three-point shooting as a cherry on top. We don't want that to be what makes us good or what we rely upon to be a good team. And we want it to be a thing where if we are shooting the ball well, that we're just really, really hard to beat. And I thought that showed up in the first half when we went 6 for 14 from 3. Obviously had a 16-point lead going into halftime. Shot 33% in the second half, which is elite for us and something that we can build on moving forward. I would say so. I think our guys have done a really good job being mentally tough all year. We played a really tough schedule in the non-conference and lost a couple tight games. And I think a lot of people wanted to count us out and say you're not last year's team. And we handled that the right way. We didn't point fingers. We weren't blaming each other for the lack of success, and we just stayed the course. We kept working and practicing, and we leaned into each other. And I think over the last month and a half, we've been playing really good basketball.
Final thing here, we talked on the front end. I gave you the Otega Oweh his numbers. Yep. He's been leading the team. The reason why I wanted to do it is to be able to compare what he's doing with what Florida's doing. In 9 of their last 10 games, they've had several different leading scorers. There's been Xavier Lee. There's been Thomas Hawk. There's been Alex Condon. There's been Boogie Fland. Even Clavar gave him a 20-point game, and Chinaloo also gave him a 20-point game there as well. I think what makes this team so dangerous, I think what makes Kentucky dangerous is the fact that Otega Owe, once he puts the Superman cape on, everybody follows.
Yeah.
The thing what's dangerous about this Florida team is that not one person has to get hot for this squad.
Yeah, and I feel like they are the recipe. They're the blueprint of what you want to build a college basketball team around.
Yeah.
They've got the experience in the front court, as we've talked about. Condon and Houck, both national championship winning front court. They're able to shoot the three. Houck is a great stretch 4, sometimes stretch 5 whenever he plays it, but albeit in very limited minutes. They can affect the game with the blocks. They can definitely affect it on the defense. But then you also add in the wild card of Boogie Fland. He could sometimes shoot the 3 well.
Yeah.
Hasn't really gotten off to the start that he wanted to this year. And then, as you mentioned, Xavier Lee just had a great game against Georgia. So it just feels like if you are trying to model, everyone wants to model what Kurt Signetti is doing in football right now.
Yeah.
And I feel like if people started paying attention to this Florida team, that's probably the blueprint that you want to start developing. Get these guys, these bigs, out of high school, really develop them, and then get your guards out of the portal or somewhere out of these like small mid-major schools.
Yeah, seems like the recipe for success. It has been for Florida so far. Florida and Kentucky play an epic game coming up on Saturday.